Today we're going to make a really lovely two-coloured butterfly in this really beautiful mould. I've got this lovely little silicone mould and it's got quite a nice deep undercut of the butterfly sitting on a bed of frangipani flowers. Now if you're already a soap artist and you wanted to make this even more beautiful, if you can have a look in the mould, you might see there's the little tongues, I'm not sure the correct botanical name for the flowers, and if you got a toothpick and you hand coloured each one of those, perhaps red with a yellow flower or yellow with a white flower, you'd get this really beautiful deep pattern in it. But for today we're just going to do the butterfly in one colour and the flowers in a different colour, and it'll come up really beautifully. So firstly we need to melt a little bit of the white soap, so we'll just chop this down. Now you can use any type of heat source you like. We're going to pop this in the microwave. I've brought it home from the office, so it's nice and easy to use, but you could use the stove, you could use a double boiler. I'll pop it in the microwave on high for 30 seconds. And that should do it. And I think I'll use a nice blue for the butterfly and then do a bed of pale yellow or white flowers. So these are the pigments that we use for colouring. So we'll get a little bit of the blue. I'll give it a shake first, make sure that's all mixed up. And give that one a little bit there. That's got about 10 seconds to go. Now, the tools that you might need. I've got a fine skewer so I can get it into the pointy areas that I need to. That should be just about done. Yep, that's all completely melted, so you can have a look. The soap's nice and runny in here. We'll add a dot of blue. Oh, not coming out. There we go. A little bit of blue and give that a stir. And I've gone quite a dark blue because I want the butterfly to have a really nice shade to it. Now, I'll bring it up here where you can see it a little closer. I'm not sure how the shadows are going to go, but we'll see. And we'll just very carefully pour a little bit into his wings and a little bit more in the middle. Now, it's not quite exactly where I want it, so now I'm going to just take the skewer and push the soap into his antenna there. Get the shape that I want with it, and the same on the other side. Push it around. It doesn't matter if they're not coloured up too much, just as long as we've got a hint of colour. I might just add a dot more soap into him. There we go. And drag it around his antenna. That's better, that worked that time. Now, what we need to let happen now is we need to let that butterfly set, and then we can pour our second layer on that. So we'll just pop him to one side for a few minutes and I'll come back to you in a minute and show you the next step. We've had the butterfly in the fridge just for a couple of moments. It's only been in there for about a minute or two. It's still slightly warm, but it's set, it's not runny, and so that's ready for our next level. So what we'll do is we'll cut up a little bit of the white soap, pop it into a container here and pop that in the microwave. Oops. Okay. You can add your colours before or after when you put them in. Doesn't really matter. Oh, cancel that. Power, time, give that 1 minute. On high in the microwave, and as you know, you can use any heat source that you like to melt your soap and use the microwave. Now, while that's melting, we can decide on our colour and our fragrance that we want to use with this one. I have a rose geranium. I think that'd be quite pretty, and I think I'll just use a dot of the yellow, not too much of it, just a little tiny bit, so that I get this sort of pale yellow underneath the blue butterfly. Get the space up just a little bit while we're doing that. Get the oil ready. And also the other product which you're going to need is isopropyl alcohol. This has come from a hardware store. You can buy it in the paint section. It's also known as rubbing alcohol. And if you can't get it, you can also try using a product called witch hazel. What we're going to do is spray that onto the set soap just before we pour the melted soap on, and that creates a stick between the two, because if you don't use that, when you unmold them, the two can fall apart and then you'll get a slip between your soaps. So that just ensures a good stick with them. Ooh, that's a little bit too hot. That didn't need that long. It's actually if you have a look, you can see the steam coming off the top of it and it's bubbling. Now, the problem with getting your soap that hot, it won't affect your melt and pour soap, it'll pour really nicely. But the problem is if I pour that really hot soap on top of my blue butterfly, the blue will run and I won't get a really clear distinction between the two. In fact, that had a little bit of yellow in it and I'm almost happy with that colour. So I'm just going to add just, well, I was going to add just a tiny little bit, but it came out a bit too quickly. So I've got quite a yellow colour now, never mind. And that's really, really hot. So we'll let that cool. I'll add a little bit of fragrance. I think because I'm so used to making large batches of soap at a time, I don't usually melt anything under 1 kilo and they take about 3 minutes to melt down. I was being a little bit heavy-handed with the time on the microwave for just a small quantity. You know what, I'm going to give that a go. I think it may melt the blue and it may come out in the colour, but we'll give it a go and see what happens anyway. So, yeah, it's really hot. If I put that in my hand, it's going to, it burns after a couple of minutes, really way too hot. But let's see what happens. So we spritz our butterfly straight away and we immediately pour the yellow soap straight in there. Fill it up. Now we've got a few